everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are doing a book review of a Slappyworld book.
A fuck review?
What?
A fuck review?
A book review?
That's what it sounded like.
A Slappyworld book review. And it is called The Dummy Meets the Mummy. And of course we know who the dummy is. The Mummy's another story.
I thought the dummy was the writer of the new Goosebumps show. Right?
I think there's multiple dummies.
Yeah. Well, anyways, this book, this was a wildly anticipated book because someone has been wanting us to review it for a long time because they wanted to see our reaction to Slappy in this book. At a certain point, he gets superpowers for some reason, and he turns into Superman. And he wanted to see our reaction to that. And honestly, that comes out of nowhere. But, you know, we're not...
It goes nowhere.
Yeah, but we're not to that part yet. You know, believe me, we will criticize the laser vision. But this book... As I read, or as I listened to this book, I started to get confused because so much of the book is very repetitive in terms of Slappy gets brought back to life, and then he gets put down, and then the mummy gets brought back to life, and then he gets put down, and it's like, that's really like the whole book. And so, like, I started to get like, okay, what's going on? Oh, wait a second, that's going on. It was a little confusing, and it was a little long.
Yes.
However, it was pretty entertaining. Like, this was a fun book. No matter how many flaws there are, it was a fun book. So, you know, you could say, as we have said many times before, it is a fun but flawed ride. Safi?
Well, I thought it was a bit long too, and it seems as if every single book ends in a problem for the kids.
Yeah.
And this was a whole group of kids. This was a whole classroom. And a teacher, and the people who own the museum, and the family who lives there at the museum. And I just wish, because this was at the end of the book, they could have made it to where everything worked out.
Yeah.
And I kind of disagree with the ending. I wish they would, because I don't see anything wrong with it working out once in a while.
Well,
I guess you could say that pirate one, didn't it work out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll look it up, but
I thought they got out of it.
This is just another book that destroys that whole stupid quote that they made up where they said, a great book has a beginning, a middle, and a twist. And it's like, no, the twist sucks. The twist ruins the book because the book was great, the ending was great, and then you screwed it up with the twist. Like, you know, having a twist is cool, because, like, that feels like a very Goosebumps thing, and it's really fun, and it can be really fun. But there's a lot of these books in his catalog where they end really well, and then they screw it up with that twist, like, all the time. So I'm going to read it.
This was at the very end. All they had to do was maybe change a paragraph. I don't think it would have taken much.
Oh, yep, Attack of the Jack ended where I guess, like, the only thing is that some people didn't remember what happened in the book. So, like, yeah, that was a pretty good ending, which, you know, that book's trash. So, I mean,
no,
you know.
It's not, that book is nowhere near as good as this.
No.
This book was a lot more complex. It had at least 3 or 4 different, well, I'd say 4 different parts. I can't remember if they said that. They said part 1, part 2, and part 3. I don't know if they said part 4 or not. But I would say call it 4 parts.
I think they did have epilogue. They did say epilogue.
Well, that would be part 4.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they did say that. Slappy said that.
Part 1 was all about these two guys, and they brought the mummy back to life. And what happened, Safi? You're supposed to...
Well, it was in Egypt, and this is actual dig, and the guy was... And I've seen this for real. These academics get so immersed in their work, they don't see the forest for the trees. They don't see the realities of what they're doing. They had it in the original Jurassic Park. Remember? They saw what they were doing, getting those DNA out of the amber, and they got all these dinosaur, and that guy says, you did it, or you could do it, but you shouldn't have done it, or something. He had a whole big speech. And anyway, they just get so immersed in what they're doing, they forget that it's not a good thing. Maybe AI is probably something that might go along those lines. People have been debating that lately. That's something recent.
Yeah, I mean, these writers are so bad that, you know that they would be the ones who are just so lazy and so retarded that they're just going to use AI, even though AI sucks.
Well, that's what I was just... That's the only thing I can think of that people would know about. But I've seen this for real, how professors get so immersed in their research.
Well, what happened? What happened in it,
that,
though? What happened in it?
They told him not... The guy, the mummy that they were excavating, they knew where it was. They were about ready to enter the tomb. The problem is, the guy, the Egyptian guy from the Egyptian Council, because they have this, if you do research in a foreign country, they have a council that kind of represents the artifacts and everything else. He said not to do it, because the problem is, this was a mummy of a prince, but he wasn't really a prince. He was about to become a prince, and he died. How did he die? I don't know. They didn't say. And I don't know if that matters. But therefore, he was pissed off and he wanted revenge. And so he was buried, or, mummified or whatever, wanting revenge, that feeling. And the mummy was cursed. And so he said, don't do it. There's going to be a problem. So guess what? And during the dig, there was a problem. And this was really violent.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was shocked.
That was really cool, and I thought, see, this is what Goosebumps should be like. It should not be like babyish trash like the new series. It should be like this opening scene.
So anyway, you have this professor. Well, he is, of course, familiar with hieroglyphics, and he could read them. And what is it that we always talk about with Slappy? We even argued with a person who watched our channel.
Yeah, somebody is so delusional that they think that Slappy can be brought back to life by doing something else other than reading the words on the piece of paper. I mean, that is how idiotic the Goosebumps fanboys are, the people who like the new show. They think that Slappy can be brought back to life by any means necessary. They don't think you have to have the words on the paper, even though that's the whole fucking character, But the mummy, you have to bring him back to life with words too. So he's basically like another kind of Slappy.
And they're written in hieroglyphics on the side of the sarcophagus, and he reads them, and he says, "I don't understand what those words mean." Well, it's just like Haru, whatever. With Slappy, nobody knows what those mean either. And what happens? Brings the mummy to life. And remember, the mummy's cursed and he wants revenge. Well, he reaches through there and rips off the professor's mustache, including the skin.
Yeah.
Then he rips his face off. And so we come back, we go later. We're in the hospital. The professors had 3 surgeries to repair his face. And He doesn't want anything to do with the mummy. He was going to bring it home and put it in his laboratory. So he says, I don't want this, you can take it. And the Egyptian guy who had warned him in the first place not to do it, he said, that's your problem. It's not my problem where it goes. I warned you. Nobody wanted anything to do with it because it's it's alive. In fact, how did they get it? I don't even remember because so much happened. I don't even know how they got it to stop. Maybe they said the words again.
They probably said the words again. But then in the second part of the story,
we get to part
you
2.
have this kid named Aaron. And he is a little shit. And he gets a Slappy doll from school from this guy named Mandrake the Magician. Safi, why don't you just take a time out and settle down? Aaron gets Slappy. And Slappy causes all kinds of chaos at home. He makes really good jokes at his parents' expense. And it was really funny because, like, normally in these Slappy stories, the families, they don't really catch on to what's going on, but it happens pretty quickly where these parents think that Slappy has like a voice box and that he was programmed to roast them. And then they do some other stuff with Slappy, and he throws up all over the house his green vomit that smells terrible. And, that whole part was great to me because it was such fast-paced, like, Slappy story. It was such a nice pace to have early on in the book because I felt like this is getting off to a good start. It's not dragging. No. It's very, very fast and fun. And then the dad is like, you know what, Aaron? I'm going to take Slappy away, and you're never going to see him again because this is screwed up that you have this evil doll, and that's it. And then he takes Slappy away, and that's it. And I will say, though, that I am not really a fan of Slappy in this book because he is very much like the modern Slappy. He's very weak. He's very easily defeatable. I mean, all you have to do is read the magic words, or what his dad does. His dad stuffs him up in the chest and takes him away. Remember? And so, like, I don't like that. I think that Slappy should be a lot more intimidating. He should be a lot harder to defeat. You shouldn't just be able to get Slappy out of your life by putting him in a box and throwing him somewhere random out on the street. And so the dad actually takes it outside this horror museum.
And that comes to part 3.
And leaves it there.
And nobody knows. His family doesn't know
and
that he did that.
I think that the second part was actually my favorite part of the book, actually, because I just liked how, this kind of felt like a good family where they didn't really blame the child.
Yeah, it was good.
They didn't treat him like trash like these other parents in the Slappy books where they're like, it's all your fault. You're gonna go to the jail. You're gonna get a psychiatrist. You're gonna get tons of whippings, and you're gonna get fucked up because you didn't do these things. But we don't know.
Well, they all saw the bad behavior.
Yeah.
At the same time, but the thing is, that kind of things happen too, and they've said, oh, the kid learned. In fact, it might have been in the last book or the one before that. I can't remember where they thought he learned all that. I mean, you're talking expert ventriloquism right off the bat. He just brought it home.
Yeah.
And at least they didn't blame him because that's happened.
That was cool. I thought that, Safi liked that Slappy Beware book where the kid and the family just didn't care about what Slappy was doing. I felt like this little tiny part 2 was kind of like that, but better. So I like that a lot, that second part. Safi?
Okay, well, we come to the part 3, which this is unusual. I don't remember any Slappy books like this. How it was so distinctly separated.
Slappy Beware.
And they had, they had different, and in fact, they had different readers doing each part.
The first reader, or was it the second reader? Like, there was one reader, and he was like a different guy. I think he did the second part, and I really liked his voice. He did a great job at playing Slappy, but then the Slappy guy did the first part. But then the third part, one of the big reasons why I didn't really like the third part as much as the other two parts, which I guess is the main part of the book, the reason why I wasn't really a fan as much is because I did not like the girl reading the book. I felt like she was not the right voice to do Slappy, and she voices Slappy several times, and it's just very weak and non-threatening, and it isn't Slappy. So I felt like that was like, but again, that's just the audiobook. Most people read the book, so they won't notice that.
Now that's the thing, when you read a book versus listening to it, it's a completely different experience. In fact, I think it's more like of an entertainment thing when you listen to it, in terms of, it's like, a play where people have different voices. And although you have one reader doing all the voices, but then they have Joe Freya, who plays Slappy, and he comes in at the beginning and all the different breaks, and then in the epilogue. I just wondered why they couldn't have used him to play Slappy in the books, but then they wouldn't have him doing the epilogue too. Not epilogue, I mean the breaks.
Yeah, they have him doing all the breaks in the story, so why can't he do Slappy too in all the parts? Like, that's just stupid.
Because he has he's perfect for the part.
Well, not really. I mean,
he's better than what they had.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just think,
she was very...
It's weird to have those different readers playing Slappy.
She was a good reader, but she was not a good Slappy.
Yeah. And it's nothing against her. That's just the way it works out.
And one of the things that I loved about Part 3, though, was the fact that this is what I Am Slappy's evil twin should have been like, where, if you guys remember in that one, you had the filmmaker father, and we said, that whole book should have taken place at the film set. They should have taken advantage of the fact that he's a filmmaker and shown all this stuff and had Slappy cause trouble on set, interact with actors, harass girls in the set, stuff like that. But no, they have the whole book basically take place in the stupid attic at their stupid house. Well, in this book, they have a horror museum, and the whole book takes place at that horror museum.
The majority of the book.
And, that's exactly what I wanted. So why couldn't you do that for I Am Slappy's evil twin? Right?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense, and it worked out just fine. No problem at all. Because it's a museum, and it's an old house, multiple floors, multiple rooms, multiple displays. So anyway, now you're to a different family. It looks like you have a father and you have two daughters. And you have a 12-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter. And anyway, first, they got a mummy. He's always wanted a mummy. And he's been advertising for his museum. And he's been advertising all over the place. And finally, he got one. It came all the way from Egypt. Guess what mummy it was? It was the bad one. The prince, who never got to be prince. So there you go. They're in for trouble. Then, it's already set up. There's a whole Egyptian display with a model pyramid and all these other artifacts. The guy's really excited. Then, what happens? Somebody comes to their door of the museum, because they live there too, right? And then they look outside, and there is a box with a handle, and the guy just drives away. Guess what that is? That's Slappy. So they don't really... He takes it to his office or whatever. He doesn't want to put it on display until he figures out all the, how to display it and whatever else he needs to do.
Well, I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I don't know why you're going at that snail's pace.
Well, that's just how it
starts.
So
anyways, first off, they bring the mummy back to life accidentally, and then they have to put him down, and that's when they decide, like, should we even have the kids come here for a big party?
Well, you have to explain what
the overnight. What?
The school, it's another one of those overnight school event.
Well, I did say that. I said the overnight, so.
They're all going to spend the night. Well, no, is it not just the night, the weekend, or is it just the night?
I can't remember.
I think it's just the night. And he has everything planned, and the mummy is really excited about showing the mummy. So anyway, when the mummy comes to life and he's really bad, and they figure out how to put him to sleep, which is what? You say the words on the side of the coffin, then you say them again. He goes to sleep. They don't want to bring the kids there. They're afraid something bad's going to happen.
But the kids are already there.
They're already there.
And that's when they start showing all the exhibits and going through all the stories and everything. And they show Slappy, and that's when Aaron wets his pants because he's
there.
Yeah.
He's in the class.
I thought that was cool. I like the fact that, like, he showed up again because, like, I was kind of like, this book is a little confusing with, like, how many characters there are. And, the first two parts, they go by really fast. So I was really, like, hoping that we get to see Aaron again. And, it's good that we did, although he's kind of bizarre, too, his character, as we come to find out. But
yeah, but they find out that what he says is true.
Yeah. And this is where we get to... Because does he have the card, Slappy? Doesn't he have the card inside of him?
It's a bunch of paperwork. It's different papers. I don't think there's...
Well, I gotta say, I have a big issue with R.L. Stine and the Slappy card, because I never even thought about this, but I think that it is a great point. Slappy has been passed around like a cheap hooker. And how in the hell does Slappy still have that fucking card in his pocket at this point? Like, you'd think that by now, some family that got him would have thrown away the card so that he wouldn't be able to be brought back to life. How is it that Slappy still has that same card and he's just able to keep it over and over? The only way that could be possible is if Slappy himself got that card back somehow, but that still just doesn't make sense, because then you think about the Ghost of Slappy. Where does that story take place in the timeline? Because what happens in that one with the card? What happens?
I don't know.
You don't remember that?
No.
The Anna Lee or Annabelle Lee or whatever that biatch's name was. She destroys the card.
Oh, yeah,
she tears it up.
That's right.
So where's that? What's up with that? Is this just like the fucking Simpsons where they ignore the past episode or what?
No, I think he probably puts them back together.
How?
I don't know.
He puts them back together with what? Magic?
Yep.
Oh, that's just stupid.
They don't say that.
That is just... But
I don't know if they had any card. I'm not positive.
That's a really good point, Safi. You got to admit that.
It is. Paperwork.
Why does he still have that card? They could have shown... You could have taken 2 seconds to show Slappy getting a piece of paper, stealing a pen, and then writing the words on the card, putting it in his own pocket, and then playing dead. You could have easily done that. But no. He still has the same card, and it's magically there. In none of these families that have ever had them, no one has taken that card and destroyed it, or thrown it in the trash, or eaten it or something. Like, really? Really?
Really, it's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that because it's so obvious. But they did have paperwork, because I remember they had a story about Slappy's origins. And the evil magician.
They've had multiple ones. They can't keep their story straight.
Yeah, I know. So, here we have...
Suck on that, Safi.
What should we talk about first? What happens? Okay, well, the guy is a very good... The father, the museum owner, is a really good party moderator. And, they do all these exhibits, and then he decides, and he has these stories, and he tells them... He has this one where he said there was a little boy who was left here, and he died there in that house before he ever owned it, like 1 million years ago, like in the 1800s or something.
And I would like to also point out that this kind of idea that they took a house and turned it into a museum, it's very similar to me to the girl who cried monster, where if you remember in that book, the library was actually a house that they turned into a library, which was only in the book. That wasn't in the movie, that detail. So he copied himself there. What do you think of that, Safi?
Actually, that's fine. They've turned houses into funeral homes, places. We've seen it. I think they're in...
What did they turn your house into?
Had to get a drink. Okay, well, so anyway, the mummy, remember, we said the mummy came alive. They put the mummy to sleep. Kids show up. They can't cancel it. They have he takes them around the museum, shows them different things. They have pizza, and they have treats. They put up balloons and bats. And tells a story about this kid that was left there, and then all of a sudden this ghostly figure appears on the stairs, and it ends up being like the girl's best friend. I guess he's in the class too, and he had paint on his face, and he showed them. They saw it, and they said, "You mean there's no ghost? That wasn't a true story?" No. This is just an entertainment thing. I just made it up. So they're kind of disappointed. And then he gets Slappy out. He's decided he's going to show him. And Aaron has a cow. Because, my God, that's an evil dummy. You've got to put that away. Don't do anything. Things horrible. We got rid of it. And
what's great about this book is that the dad believes him. And the dad is actually very good as well. He doesn't just dismiss these kids. So I thought that was cool because, the majority of this book was trying to focus on the dummy meets the mummy. And so, you really didn't have time to have the stupid adults who don't believe the children thing. So I liked that as well.
He was actually probably one of the best parents they've ever had in the Goosebumps book.
They do this really hilariously contrived thing where they're like, don't read the words on the piece of paper that Slappy magically has after all these years. And then what happens is the paper slips out of his hand and it flies into the audience like it's the fucking Polar Express, with the ticket flying in the air. And then it magically lands in this one girl's hands, and she's like an idiot girl who probably watches Teletubbies or something, and so she reads the words because, she's just that stupid. And that's when what happens? Well, the mummy comes back to life because...
the mummy words.
It was actually the mummy words, and it's that was kind of queer in this book with, how many times, they bring back the mummy. Then they bring back Slappy, and then they bring back the mummy over and over and over again by reading these words. If you took a shot every time they did that, you'd be dead. Right, Safi?
Yeah. It happened multiple times, and
yeah,
you had to really pay attention because you could get confused. And you had all these kids that were in danger. That mummy, when it came alive before in the museum, it attacked the father and threw him and knocked him out momentarily. And then it was chasing the girls, and it was very dangerous. I mean, I told you what happened in the beginning. And it's very dangerous. I mean, it ripped man's face off.
Yeah, I thought that was cool because, like, who started making these Goosebumps books so violent? Like, last book was violent, and this book was violent. Like, who's the person? Who's the really cool guy or girl who told Earl Stine, grow some balls. Let's put some violence in Goosebumps. Kids will love it. You know, kids love violence. We just got through being at the store, and guess what happened, Safi? You didn't even see this.
I guess not.
Well, there was this woman, and she had a child, and he was like 3 or 4 years old, and he looked like a school shooter type of kid. You know, he had that look. You know, like he looked like what was the blonde Columbine kid? I can't remember which one's which. Eric. Well, this fucking kid looked like Eric Harris, and he literally had a finger gun, and he was shooting everybody in the store.
Oh my God.
Including me. I walked right up to him, and he went like, pew, pew, and his mom was laughing, and it's like, geez.
Oh my God, it's an MTG.
Eric Harris.
Oh my God.
Eric Harris Jr., And so it's like, you know, these kids, they'll love violence. You know, if you got Eric Harris Jr. out there, these kids will love violence.
Jeez.
The more violence, the better.
That.
He was going like, pew, 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 pew. His mom was like, ha, 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 ha.
Oh, God. Kamikaze Karen and Bobblehead's friend. Oh, boy.
That was funny. He shot me.
Boy, I missed that.
That was terrible. I never thought I'd ever...
What happened? What part of the store?
Around the pharmacy area. It was like
really?
they just entered the store, and I had just gotten the probiotic, and I was coming back, and he shot me.
Oh.
And a bunch of other people. It's like it was a mass murder, that kid.
Jeez.
But like as I said, kids love violence. They don't love nudity yet, but they love violence. So, like, the more violence, the better in Goosebumps.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I was shocked by it. I don't know what to say. That shocks me, too. So
Eric Harris
I don't know
Jr.
what to say about that.
Why?
You realize where we live, I won't say, but those kids were here.
Well, one of them.
No, just one of them. Well, I guess they're both bad.
One of them went to Valley Elementary School, which
they kept that on the down low.
Which was my elementary school.
They kept that on the down low. They really are good about keeping things on the down low. Right?
And after going to that school, I could see why he turned out to be a shooter, because that school was terrible. It really did things to you.
Place.
Especially the shitty ass counselor.
Ugh. She was probably there too when he was at school.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So she was one of the ones who helped mold him into who he became.
I don't know if they were there that long, but see, I think they were a military family, and of course we're near Wright Pat Air Force Base, so there are lots of military families kind of scattered about around here, especially where we are. Actually, we live really close now. I mean, closer than we ever have been.
So anyways, in the book, they have the mummy come back to life, and the mummy is mad that girl defeated him, and so he's like making these weird moaning sounds where he sounds like...
And he keeps saying her name over and
what's
over.
Her name?
Is it Cassie?
Cassie!
Yeah, so he can talk.
Yeah.
But that's all he can say.
Yeah, he never says anything else. I thought that was disappointing. I really kind of wanted the mummy to have more of a character, because, you know, Slappy, you know, he has his whole character, but they had that whole mystery of, like, of he died before he could become a king.
And we never know how or why.
And so I thought it would have been cool if, like, he could talk and he could, like, have a character. That would have been nice, but then what happens? Like, Slappy comes to life somehow? Like, I can't even remember, because
it goes back and forth, and guess what happens? What do you think's going to happen if the dummy meets the mummy?
They fight.
That's right. A big brawl. And, wow.
Well, let's say the first thing he does, Slappy, is that he becomes Superman, and he uses laser vision to go beep and do something. Like, does that laser vision even do anything?
I don't think so.
It doesn't like destroy anything. It doesn't like dissolve anything or go through the mummy in any way. It just like bounces off of him or something. Like, it's really bizarre. It's already stupid as shit that Slappy has laser vision.
They could have left that part out.
But it's even worse the fact that it doesn't do anything. It's like what's that even for? What was that even for? Why even have laser vision? Because it doesn't do anything.
I don't know.
In this version,
that's why I said
Slappy.
They could have left it out.
Yeah.
That was one thing they could have left out, and then they could have, like I said, changed the ending.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do much to do that. I swear.
The second thing that Slappy does is that he brings the dinosaur back to life. That was kind of cool because what does that remind you of?
Jurassic Park?
No, Dr. Mordred, which you haven't seen yet.
Oh.
You know, they did the same thing in that movie at the end. They bring the dinosaurs back to life. So I thought that was cool. And then Slappy has one final plan to try to defeat the mummy, which, you know, honestly, it's like, why don't they just say the words, right?
Yep.
But they don't know which words are which because they're too stupid to figure it out.
They have done this. They have done this several times by the end. They've said his words. In fact, I would think they have memorized by now. And you have Aaron there too. Aaron is very familiar with the words. And then the mummy's words, you don't have to look at a paper. They're written on the coffin. Of course, you have to read hieroglyphics. But she said them before, remember? Remember, that's how at first.
Yeah.
The mummy came alive. She read the words.
Yeah.
That means she could read hieroglyphics.
Well, maybe she had an Egyptology class in school, or
she was 9 years old.
Maybe a summer camp, because I did do a summer camp of Egyptology, and it was a lot of fun. You know, there was this one time though where, you know, they had this really terrible rule where if you killed a bug, you had to eat it, and they enforced that rule too, which I think that's terrible because, like, that's gross. You shouldn't be forcing children to eat bugs like that. It's like, who are you trying to be, Bill Gates? And then, so there was this one time where there was one of those, like, what's those kind of beetles? You know, those little those little fat ones that are like, you know, they're like this big and they're like fat and they're like orange. Well, one of those was in my hair, and I didn't even notice it because I had like that bowl haircut, and so somebody alerted me to it, and I took it out of my hair and I stomped on it to death, and so
Why'd you do that?
Because it was gross and it was
just take it outside.
It was gross and it was scary and it was in my hair.
So what? It was beetle.
And so I had to stand there on top of the beetle until the coast was clear, so that they knew that, or that they didn't know that I killed that beetle.
Oh God!
But in this story, I had to do that, and then I think I hid it somewhere to make sure that I covered up all the evidence, and so then in this book, Slappy gets all these amber beetles. And aren't they scarabs?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I don't think they said that.
No, they said beetles. Yeah. Which, what do they think, that children aren't able to pronounce the word scarabs? Or they don't.
I don't know, but they had those in the Mummy.
Yeah.
And both of the Mummy movies, I believe. And God, and other things I've seen it.
Well, Slappy brings those to life, and then he has those swarm and attack the mummy, and that doesn't work either. And so this is where the stupidest part of the book happens. Safi, what happens? How is the mummy defeated? How is the villain of the story defeated in this book?
Well, the 9-year-old sister is a tickle monster.
Yeah.
She loves to tickle people. So she tickles, because first the mummy had the big sister, because that's Cassie. And then the little girl, 9-year-old, says, stop it. You're going to have to stop it. So he turns around, he lets go of Cassie, and he gets the other little girl. Well, the little girl decides she's going to tickle the mummy. This is goofy. And like I said, they can't just... I don't know, they brought that up at the beginning of the book.
Well, it's stupid because they suggested that she do that at one point as a joke. And I thought, that's fine, just say that is a joke. You know, tickling a mummy to death. But they actually do it.
Well, what happens is when she tickles them, and, you know, mummies have a whole big layer of bandages. It's not just...
Yeah.
like a person, and it's dead.
And yeah, how would they even be able to feel the tickling?
That's right.
Because they don't have a nervous system anymore.
And so he laughs in
a
certain way.
The mummy laughs.
And then because he's been out for revenge, and that was his curse, he dies.
Yeah. He dies from being tickled.
Him to sleep.
That was so stupid. And, like, honestly, like, it's just so insulting to think that kids would accept that a mummy would be defeated by being tickled. It's like, you could at least do something better than that. That was totally stupid, totally insulting. Because you think about, like, let's just take that same attitude and let's go to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And let's have that movie end with the bad guys being tickled. You know, what do you think's going to happen in that scenario, Safi?
Dead, like what happened in real life.
They're going to have a bad time with that. You know, you don't tickle a bad guy. If somebody comes up to you with a knife in public, you don't tickle them to death.
That was very childish. I mean, if you had all this really hard violence, that mummy was throwing them against the wall, he probably gave the father a concussion, and then pulling that professor's face off.
Yeah, that was really good.
Very violent, and so and him being defeated by being tickled.
Yeah,
it's really kind of corny, stupid,
cheesy, corny, and dumb, which is what a lot of people accuse the '90s show of being, even though it's not. And you know, I would also say that, you know, it was also a joke in an Office episode. You had it where one of the employees said that somebody should just start tickling someone to resolve a problem. And, you know, it was a joke. And they didn't do that, obviously. And it was like a whole big thing. And so it's like, how in the hell did that pass the editing point of writing? Like, how is it that R.L. Stine thought it would be okay to have the little girl be like, the mad tickler strikes again? And you know what that was a copy of, Safi?
No.
The Terror Tower, you know, with the mad pickpocket.
Yeah.
The mad pickpocket strikes again, and that's how that whole story is resolved.
I remember that.
Pickpocketing. Stupid.
Well,
and then
actually, that's more acceptable.
Well, yeah, that was awesome, but this was not. But you know, so then Slappy is still alive, and
he's being terrible. He says, "Now that he's defeated, I'm going to take all of you over," and that's all the kids' class.
Now, this is the part that really pissed me off too, because apparently from this point on, R.L. Stine made it so Slappy doesn't call people slaves because that's racist, and he only calls people servants. So this is the start of SJW Slappy series, where, you know, he cannot call people slaves, even though slavery did not just happen to black people.
Yeah.
And, you know, that word just isn't meant for that whole thing that black people went through. It's a word that can be used for a lot of different things. So I really feel like that's retarded too. So it just makes me, stuff like that, not want to give the book a good grade. Right, Safi?
Well, it just... They get the words, they find the... And this is what's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It kind of freaked me out. Cassie sees a piece of paper and she knows it has the words. We'll say the words on it. And now, you know, by this time, you can tell the difference between the words you say to get Slappy awake or put him to sleep, and the other words that are for the mummy. They're completely different. There's the amount of words it takes is completely different. She says the words. Guess what the words are for?
The mummy.
The mummy. Now, we never see what happens, but the ending is Slappy's still in charge.
And the mummy comes to life too.
Probably.
So it's like everything in the whole book is kind of pointless because now it continues on.
So I just said, why couldn't they just let this go?
Yeah.
And get Slappy. Those would have been the words for Slappy. And they would have put him to sleep. The mummy was asleep. At the end.
Yeah. They should have done that, but they didn't. And so that was another reason why I didn't give this book a higher grade, is because I thought that the twist was stupid. It totally undercutted the ending. Because, I mean, that fight, it goes on for a while. You know, the fight...
All the kids, they're fighting off rubber bats that have been turned alive.
Yeah.
And those bugs.
Yeah, ew.
Scarab bugs.
That'd be scary as hell. And it's all for nothing.
Yep.
Again, it's like I really hate these stories.
And this is to the very end.
I hate these stories where it's all for nothing. It's really irritating. It's like that's not how stories should be. It's like, I don't know what's the deal with that, and so like that really irritated me. But overall, I did enjoy the book. I thought it was fun. I thought that it was decent, at least. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't great. It was just good. Safi?
Okay, well, I gave it a B.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
I give it a B as well.
And I liked it. I thought it was a little bit long. And I think they should have just changed the ending. And it wouldn't have taken much to do it. Very little effort. And the thing with the tickling was kind of idiotic. And the thing with the words, like they don't know which words are which, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because of the this happens over and over again. You know, enough to where they know the words.
Yeah.
Just distinctly different.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's that. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers so we can hear your opinions and thought about, did you read this book? Out of all the books we've read, this is probably one of the Slappyworld books. This is probably one of the best ones.
Yeah, it is one of the best, but that's not saying much since the majority of these books have been mediocre to poor. They've had a lot of flaws, and yeah, but this one is one of the best, though, definitely.
And as far as, again, we're going through this with, you can listen to the book as an audiobook, or you can read it. It's up to you. And it's just a completely different experience. Remember that. And, you know, when you watch a movie and read a book, those are two different. And the book is about the same movie as the book. It's a completely different experience. You know what I'm waiting to read? Killers of the, what is it? The Flower Moon?
Yeah.
I'm on a waiting list.
Why, do you want to fantasize about the main Indian girl?
Don't be ridiculous. That's so dumb.
Why?
I don't know what that's going to be like. I know that, I never can remember the name. the Botswana mystery books with the lady Emma Ramatswe. If you listen to those books, they're not good. It's just not. They don't know how to say the names. That's East Africa, and they don't know how to say the language, the names, the different. It just isn't the same. It's better just to read those, at least in my experience. And like I said, in the Tony Hillerman books, I've read several now. I think I'm on the 8th one, and they've had 3 different readers, and I don't like that either. But like I said, it can happen, and this happened with the Penny series. She's a writer who writes about French Canada.
But Safi, the real question is, can you read?
Marco, cut it out.
Do you know how to read?
Do an audiobook. You can do other things while you read. That's the thing. If you hand read a book, you can't do anything else.
I like to listen to books with text-to-speech robot voice, because then it really strips things down to the bare story.
Yeah.
And there's no other sort of biases that you'll have because it sounds like a robot.
But in the Penny story, the reader they had, he died. So they had to get a different reader. They had no choice. So anyway, you do what you want to do, but thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.